And how we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Fenway Faithful. How we doing? And we had a little something. We had a lot of something this past weekend. Fenway Fest, the first one ever. I'm gonna be honest. I've been seeing all the pictures. I've been seeing the posts. I've been seeing all the pictures of the players. The snow at Fenway Park. I'm gonna be honest. I am super jealous. I wish I would have went. Now I did try to go as possibly for media stuff. I would have loved to have been able to interview some players and whatnot. But in the end, couldn't get that done. The flights were just so expensive, getting that close to it. And I just figured, you know what, if I can't go for work, then I'll just wait until next year. Maybe plan more in advance, because hotels are expensive too. When you're trying to plan, so close to the event. So it is what it is. But if you did go to Fenway Fest, I hope you had a great time. It looked like an awesome time. It just would have been cool, honestly, for me to go and, to meet people, people that I interact with on Twitter. I would have loved that. That would have been the best part for me, honestly. And, but hey, it is what it is. A lot of stuff came out from Fenway Fest, and we had Cora talking, we had Sam Kennedy talking, we had Craig Breslow talking, they were talking Alex Bregman, Raffy, Tristan Casas even spoke. Casas, I say giving the best possible response on all of these trade rumors that just never seem to want to die. We'll talk more about that here tonight. A lot to talk about. Garrett Crochet with the extension talks as well. We got a little something here just in the last couple of hours that maybe a little something on Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell. We got some Marcelo Meyer news as well. A lot to dig into tonight, So let's get into it. Let's start off here with Craig Breslow. Nesson, they had a lot of sit downs here, with all the top guys, Breslow, Kennedy, and Cora, along with Casas. And look at the view. Look at the great view in the back. You got Fenway back there, man. The red seats with the snow on the field. That just looks wonderful. I wish I was there, but it is what it is. Now, with Breslow, I put together the comments that I really wanted to dive into. The big one, he was asked quite a bit about Alex Bregman, right? Talking about the possibility, and they're never going to talk about specifics, and they're going to say that every single time as well. They're going to use the line, yeah, we can't go into specifics about certain free agents and whatnot. But when it came to Bregman, basically said, the one other comment that he gave from Breslow here was that they're looking to balance out the lineup, right? Trying to get a right-handed hitter that can take advantage of Fenway Park. That was kind of, you think of Alex Bregman, and that is exactly the guy that you're looking for. But, again, not too much when it comes to Bregman. I felt like, Tom Caron was the one bringing him up more. But Breslow, he's so good at being saying a lot of words, but being as vague as possible. But remember, when it comes to those kind of answers, you always have to try and dig in a little bit, right? You got to look for certain words. And there are a couple of things here that I took away when it came to the Breslow comments. Now, the one word that stuck out to me when it came to Craig Breslow was the word team. They say that, and it almost seems like it maybe just goes over your head a little bit. Yes, you're always trying to put together the best team. But when you think about that, and when you hear him say balancing out the lineup, right? You're looking at, instead of trying to go out there and get a star player, he is trying to maximize every single position possible, right? And this is also going to tie in with the Tristan Casas stuff. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But again, really didn't give much when it came to Bregman. It was really just the most obvious one was the right-handed hitter part that could take advantage of Fenway Park. So that tells me I feel like he's looking for a guy that is going to be an everyday kind of a player. It doesn't scream a platoon option to me like Randall Grichuk. I think in the end, they are going to end up with either Bregman or Arenado. I would be a little surprised if they got neither. But then in a way, I almost wouldn't be surprised at the same time. I don't know. I'm getting this gut feeling that they're going to get one of those guys. There's been so much smoke. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But the fact that he keeps bringing up the right-handed hitter to balance the lineup, I just feel like it's inevitable that one guy is going to be brought in. That's just my opinion on that. He did talk about improving the roster, that, look at there. He said there's a number of ways to improve the roster. And again, that kind of ties back to the Bregman Arenado thing. It kind of just makes me think they're talking with Alex, they're talking with Nolan. There's a lot of options on the table. And I think you could also tie that into, the Boris talks with Bregman. It seems like the market has just stagnated with that. So they're also talking to Arenado. Could there be some leverage going on both ends? Could Arenado talks be used as leverage for Bregman? Could the Bregman talks, if there are any, is there even an offer on the table yet? I don't know. The guy that brought the sign to Fenway Fest, that was awesome. I love that. Make Bregman an offer. Yes, please make the man an offer, for crying out loud. I don't know. Could those be intertwined somehow when it comes to leverage? I'm not quite sure on that. But in the end, it's interesting when he uses the word team. And I just feel like there's other things at play that we're not thinking about. And I think there's so many different things on the table that we're not even thinking of at this point. That's kind of when you listen to him, that's the takeaway that I have, right? Breslow, I do think in the end is going to find a way to put together a good team on the field. And again, team, right? That's one thing I always stress, in the end, front offices, the way they look at it is wins. They don't look at it really as players. Yes, players obviously give you the wins, but they're looking at not just what a slash line might look like or how many home runs a guy is going to hit. They're going to look at what they're going to provide you, yes, at the plate, but what are they going to provide you defensively? What are they going to provide you on the base paths? What are they going to provide you in terms of intangibles, right? Are they the right fit for your team? That's kind of the way I see it, right? You could look at someone like Bregman Arenado. Yeah, you could look at the regression of the bat with Arenado, but then he also think about the fact that, right-handed hitter that can take advantage of Fenway Park. That screams Arenado to me. Someone that could use that ballpark to his advantage to counteract the regression of the bat. But then you also look, what are some other spots on the team that you could improve, right? You look at catching. I mean, listen, I like Connor Wong, but, you look at the position and you look at the wins above replacement. He was very inconsistent defensively last year. The batting average on balls in play was very high with him last year. I do expect to see some regression with the bat from Connor Wong once pitchers, they start to figure him out a bit more. Is he going to be able to make those adjustments? Will he be able to keep getting lucky with balls falling into play? I'm not sure. But that makes me wonder, could they still be looking at options when it comes to the catching position? Possibly. I'll talk more about that in a second. I think they're really just looking at every single avenue right now. And it seems like we're getting pretty close here to spring training. I think there's more moves to be made. And that's one of the takeaways that I got here. You go over to Sam Kennedy as well. And one more thing with Breslow, he said, it's potentially foolish to just have one path, need to be open to multiple pathways. Again, I think they're looking at guys in free agency. They're looking at guys in the trade market. But then I'm also going to go over to Sam Kennedy here. He said here, he made a lot of comments, right? Kind of almost like Breslow-like, right? Says a ton of words, but without giving you too much of an answer, vague. But, one thing that stuck out with me with Kennedy was he says the market is driven by different factors. You have to pay a certain price. So overpaying isn't necessarily a thing. But then again, it's almost like, it kind of makes me think, I think about Bregman and I think about, what maybe they're looking for. And he did say you have limits of where you want to go. You got to be disciplined. Again, does that tie into the Bregman stuff, right? He talks about how there's a bunch of different factors that come into play. With Bregman, I am pretty sure that guy has a couple of offers already. I think he would like to come to the Red Sox. But the Red Sox, the fact that he pointed out saying there's limits of where you want to go, there have to be limits of where you want to go, and you have to be disciplined, right? Again, I think they would like to get someone like Bregman, but I think they're not at the point where you can go out there and just slap down at least where they want to. They can if they wanted to. But I think for the Red Sox right now, they want to make the postseason first. That's just the idea that I'm getting. They keep saying how, Kennedy even said here, the job is to win 95 games to win the division. I think they want to get to that point first, right? Check off that box, and then you could go and land a guy, right? Feel like they're not, I don't know. I think they like Bregman, but I think they're not willing to go to a certain point. But that's where also I think they're just trying to play the market at the same time. What's the offer from the Tigers? It's obviously not good enough, or Bregman would have signed it by now. I mean, he would have been there. So obviously something's holding him back from that. The Blue Jays, well, that's a whole different story in itself. Again, do they have an offer on the table? If there is one, it's obviously not good enough for him. He doesn't like it enough at this point. So I think he's waiting to see if the Red Sox can maybe, give him something that he wants. And maybe the Red Sox feel like, all right, yeah, we'd like you, but we'll make you an offer when we feel like you are closer to where we want to be. All right. I don't think you necessarily, I think the whole, the fact that they haven't made an offer yet, I think that could be a little overblown. Personally, I think if you still have that dialogue open, then if the phone calls are still being made, then, and he hasn't signed anywhere, anything can happen, right? I don't know. It seems like to me the Red Sox are still stuck on the parameters with him. Maybe they're calling every day to see if there could be some kind of wiggle room, or will he end up just going to the Tigers? That's my bet. I've kind of felt like that for a little bit now. We'll see. But when it comes to Kennedy, he said also, and he also brought up the fact too, the free agent history, saying over the last 20 or so years, they've had a lot of free agents that have been good contributors, but then there's been a lot of free agents that have not been able to contribute. That tells me that they are, in a way, hesitant. That, yes, there are guys that have really lived up to the contract, like JD Martinez, Manny Ramirez, right? But then there's been a lot of guys that haven't. Pablo Sandoval being probably the best example. Carl Crawford. You could say, you could actually argue Carl Crawford was the best example. Maybe Pablo. The belt exploding still gives me nightmares. But yeah, a lot of guys have not. And you've had some, in between. But again, when I'm kind of looking at these different comments and I'm combining it with what we've been seeing in the reports, kind of just tells me, if I had to put a bow on all of it, it tells me they want to get guys, but they're not fully there to really push the envelope. Unless it's something closer to what they're looking for. I look at the word disciplined. And people are going to point out, yeah, Kennedy is making bold statements coming into the offseason. Yeah, I get that. I honestly wish the Red Sox, these guys would probably just stop talking, to be honest. I just put out one statement. We're looking to make our team better. We'll see you in spring training. I don't know. You know what I mean? Just stop coming out and talking. But I think in the end, they want to get better, but they also don't want to exert themselves past the point where they feel like, I think they're willing to go get a little bit uncomfortable to a point, if that makes sense. I think they would like to have Bregman. Personally, my idea, if they are actually in the Bregman sweepstakes, my guess is they probably don't want to go more than 4 years. I'm guessing. I don't know. That's the way I see it. Maybe even 3. I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe they're saying to Bregman, listen, we'll do a 3-year. You could have an opt-out in there. That's the way I think. I wonder if it's even anything more than 4. Reportedly, speculation out there about the Tigers. There's been something out there where it could be, 4 or 5 years with the Tigers. That tells me maybe the Red Sox, they're looking at something like 3. 3 to 4. some kind of option in there, opt out in there. That's the way I feel personally. We'll see what ends up happening when it comes to that. But I do think the comments from Breslow and Kennedy were pretty interesting. Also with Breslow, another thing to keep in mind, he also said he likes the rotation. Kind of makes me think they're probably done with the... I mean, we've kind of known this for a little bit now. I don't see him adding more to the rotation at this point. I don't know. I honestly think they're in a spot where maybe they could possibly even trade from the rotation. Because you got to think, you got your 1 through 5, right? You got Garrett Crochet. You got Houck. You got Bayo. You got Giolito. You got Crawford. You got Walker Buehler. You also have Richard Fitz. I mean, you got a lot of guys all of a sudden. You know, they're talking about 6-man rotations. Well, even if you have a 6-man rotation, you know, you're still looking at Richard Fitz looking to, you know, get into the mix somehow. You're looking at Cooper Criswell, right? Cooper Criswell is going to be a swing man, but still, or at least just a long reliever, a multi-inning reliever, but still a guy that can start for you. So all of a sudden, you have a lot of starting pitching. So I actually wonder if there could be a scenario where maybe they even deal from the rotation. Possibly. Maybe you could... I'm probably breaking a lot of people's hearts here, but maybe even someone like Cutter Crawford could end up getting moved. You know, a guy that has value. Major league experience, tons of control, pretty cheap for the most part. Cutter Crawford is someone I wonder if he could end up getting moved. And then you could look at someone like Richard Fitz being a guy. You know what I mean? Because right now, you have Crochet, Houck, Bayo, Buehler, and Giolito. That's your 5. And then, you know, Crawford or Fitz, you know, they're really the 6th guy. So I wonder if one of them could end up getting moved at some point. Now, it never hurts to have too much starting pitching, especially when you have guys that have history with the injuries, right? Garrett Crochet, Walker Buehler, obviously, Giolito coming off of elbow surgery. So it probably ends up helping that you have all these guys. But I just wonder if maybe they see someone like Crawford or Fitz that could potentially have value for other teams. I don't know, because don't forget, you also got David Sandlin down there. Again, I know he's not major league ready, right? He still has to kind of prove some things down there. Maybe he could end up making a rise this year. I know they like him a lot. So now moving on to Alex Cora. I would say the biggest takeaways with Cora, he talked about Rafi, right? Says Rafael Devers is our third baseman. He envisions Alex Bregman as a second baseman. So, again, there's just been so much smoke when it comes to the Rafi stuff. You keep hearing the Casas stuff. You keep hearing Rafi maybe being an option at first base. I know there's a lot of people that think he probably shouldn't do it. I think, honestly... I mean, listen, whatever. You don't have to agree with me. I personally think Rafi would be a better fit at first base at this point. I still think DH is a good idea too, but I also want to point this out as well. Harold Reynolds on MLB Network, he actually talked about this not too long ago. He actually said he would be worried. I might be paraphrasing, and that might not be the exact wording. I think he basically didn't like the idea of Rafi being a DH. He thinks, he did say Rafi, he thinks he's too young. But then you think back to David Ortiz. David Ortiz really became a full-time DH. I think it was also at 28 years old. 29. I think he played a little first base in 2004. And then when he was 29, that ended up being really when that was his first full season as a DH, right? But minus interleague play. Rafi, I don't know. I guess, and some guys, they prefer to be on the field, right? Keeps them moving. DH, also another thing that Harold Reynolds brought up too, is that it takes a certain mindset to be a designated hitter. You really got to think about that. You're only getting off the bench to hit, right? For David Ortiz, he's a big dude, right? Rafael Devers is a guy that moves a little bit better than Ortiz. I don't know. Sure, he showed some good signs at third base this past year. He really did. But when you're looking at it from a consistency point of view, there was a lot of with there. I actually feel like he could be a pretty decent first baseman. I don't think he can be a Gold Glove first baseman, but I think he can get the job done over there. I see a guy that moves around fine, but I don't know if it's good enough for third base. I feel like he would be fine at first base. He has a good arm. That's another thing. You want a first baseman to have a pretty good arm, for cutoff throws, relays, throwing, in the infield, whatever it may be. So Raffy does have a pretty good arm. So I feel like he would be fine at first. I think he moves around well enough to get the job done. And it would keep him in the field if that's what he prefers. It keeps him fresh. I see a lot of people out there saying, oh, Raffy's stretching at first base. It scares me. I don't know. I think Raffy is more athletic than you think. That's just my opinion. I don't know. He moves out there. I just don't know if he moves well enough for third. So that's where I'll leave it at. Now, but again, I can see the advantage of DH, obviously, because he has a great bat. So just do that. But again, does he prefer that? Will it be better for him to go out onto the field every half inning? Some guys prefer that. So I don't know. Maybe that first base to me, I feel like that's a bit of a happy medium, right? Third base, the numbers have not been good defensively. DH, is that too little activity for him? I feel like first base might be that medium, that happy medium, right? Kevin Youkilis did it years back. Albert Pujols did it years back, Remember, Albert Pujols was a third baseman at one point, ladies and gentlemen. But also, Alex Bregman did touch on a couple other things. He said David Hamilton is going to see some outfield time. I'm okay with that. I wonder how he gets into the outfield mix. I mean, you got a lot of guys. I mean, obviously, Duran, Raphael is pretty much set in stone as their center fielder. Willie Abreu, Jarren Duran. And he's also talking about Masataka Yoshida. He did talk about how his shoulder was not doing good this year. He ended up getting shoulder surgery. And that was kind of one thing I did wonder about. I'm like, is he hurt? Why can't he play? Because there were some times where it seemed pretty obvious that Yoshida could play in the outfield, and he just wasn't going to him. Now, he doesn't move around very well out there, but whatever. If it's like here and there, it's fine. But he would not put him out there, and the shoulder was a problem, right? Also didn't hit left-handed pitching very well this past year. I just wonder, Yoshida just never fully seemed right, ever. So he did say Yoshida, he's looking to get him back out into the outfield mix a little bit. That can only help at this point, right? Because when you really have, Yoshida, who with his bat really just reminds me of Andrew Benintendi without the speed and the defense. I think at the bat, I think Benintendi with, a good gaps guy, not really like a ton of power. He can get into one, 15, 20 home runs, right? But Yoshida, look out for him to get in the outfield mix. Again, I do not see him getting moved. And that's another thing I feel like I haven't really brought up a lot when it comes to his value. I keep forgetting that the guy got off-season surgery on his shoulder. That keeps slipping my mind. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think Yoshida's getting moved. I keep seeing people out there suggesting, Yoshida could go back in an Arenado trade possibly. I don't see it. The Cardinals don't want to take on payroll. They want to clear payroll. The only way I could see Yoshida getting moved at this point, if a team is still looking for a bat and they're getting close to spring training and they're even in the regular season, right? They find out that, during spring training, the options that they have with the bats are probably not developing like they thought they would. Someone like Yoshida, if he's hitting well in spring training, I could maybe see a possibility like that. But in the end, I think Yoshida is going to end up staying with the amount of money that he's owed. That's just kind of where I'm at. Garrett Whitlock. I think this is actually one of the best stories coming out of out of Fenway Fest. A very underrated story, in my opinion. I have made it very known. I want Garrett Whitlock in the bullpen. I've been saying this for years. I'll take that back. I was okay with Garrett Whitlock starting. But when I saw that he was just so inconsistent in that role, again, I like the idea. I like the thinking behind it because you want to get as much value as you can. You've seen teams do it, right? Seth Lugo being a great example, right? You saw it with Jordan Hicks, right? They're going to be doing it here with Clay Holmes. Garrett Crochet was a reliever, right? So you've seen it. But when I kind of started seeing Whitlock inconsistent, right, and also going through injuries, right away I'm like, dude, you got to get this guy back in the bullpen. This guy dominated in the bullpen. He was so big. The way I saw Whitlock was exactly how they used him in 2021. I felt like in hindsight, you shouldn't have ever gotten away from that. I understand wanting to try it out, but they should have just nixed it. And who knows, things end up working out the way they're supposed to. And, it is what it is. But Whitlock, look, he talked about this himself, says he's going back to the bullpen. I think it's a great move. Hopefully, I think there's a better chance of him staying healthy out in the bullpen. I feel like they can manage him a little bit better when it comes to the arm issues he's been having. You kind of go day by day. And I think that's really what it should be with him instead of trying to do this every 5-day thing. Just go day by day, So he obviously thrived in that role back in 2021. And I think that's where he needs to be. That, I think, was one of my favorite stories coming out of Fenway Fest. Let's get to the juicy stuff, what we all want to talk about. Triston Casas, right? Everyone always wants to talk about Triston Casas because he's always in the news. He's always in the news, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here was the exact quote. Obviously, the rumors were brought up, right? I believe he talked about this with Tom Caron. He talked about this with Baseball Isn't Boring. I can't remember. I can't remember if he talked to anyone else. No, I think that was it. Maybe one more guy out there. But he said here, the Red Sox have told him none of the rumors are true. Maybe all that other stuff is clickbait. For right now, they're trying to assure me they want me to play here for a long time. They bring it up to me jokingly, almost. So this is what I take away from that. I saw people saying, oh, see, the Red Sox aren't trading him. They're not moving him. They told him they wants him to stay. I hate to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, but this stuff gets said all the time. And I also think what matters, too, is who has said this to him. Has it been Craig himself? Has it been assistants? Has it been guys in other roles? I don't know. I don't know. To me, here's the difference that I want to present. He said, they're trying to assure me they want me to play here for a long time. Want is a different word than need. You can want something, but what is it that you need at the end of the day? And that's what I wonder if the Red Sox, if how they're thinking. If there is a need out there that they feel like they need to address, the need will always hold more power over a want, right? You know what I mean? That's what I wonder. Yes, they have said they want to keep him. Sometimes you can't have everything you want, And I think for the Red Sox, I see all the time people say, why do they want to trade him so bad? Why do they want to get rid of him so bad? What is this obsession with wanting to trade Triston Casas? Again, who knows what exactly is going on, like behind the scenes with what, people in the front office think, or Craig Breslow or whatever. I don't think really, sure, a different personality. He's a different cat. He does things his own way. He likes to do things the way he wants to, whether that's preparation, for the games or whatever, the yoga. I don't care about any of that. Do what you got to do. I like that. I like when people have their own routines. You do what works for you. That's great. I don't think really any of that is coming into play. If it is, it's not much. I think what matters with Casas, to answer the question, what is this obsession with wanting to trade him? I really do think at the end of the day, and I'm going to circle back here, Dilcor, I'm going to listen. You're saying here it's not happening. He's not getting traded. You don't know what's going on in the front office, my friend. I don't know either, but I'm telling you, there are discussions out there. Now I'm circling back to the team part that I talked about in the beginning. The need is the team. That is the most important thing. The need is to improve anywhere on the team that they feel like needs to be better, right? If you're looking at different spots right now, you can say right now, the catcher position is pretty weak, right? Connor Wong, very inconsistent last year, right? If you actually go to the rankings here on Fangraphs, the Red Sox are 29th overall in Fangraph projections when it comes to the catching position. And funny enough, we've seen Cardinals Live tweet out a little bit that someone like Ivan Herrera has come up. I don't think that's being fabricated. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think... Again, I'm presenting it to you from a front office. I have never worked in a front office, but I've read enough to see how they think in the front office. And I've talked with people on how they think in the front office. This is what I'm not saying they look at Fangraphs. They have their own stuff that they look at. This is probably the best source that you could get for public information. The Red Sox, at the end of the day, they're looking at I think personally, they're looking at the catcher position right now, and they think Connor Wong. They look at the projections moving forward. The defense was inconsistent. I think, they look at that as something that you can improve. Absolutely. And you're looking at, if you want to look at the defense, right? I mean, if you're looking at third base defense let's just go to last year. Looking at last year, right? Outs above average. 26 overall, -10 outs above average at third base. They need to improve at catcher. They need to improve at defense at third. Trevor Story, hopefully the guy can stay healthy over a full year. Yes, that should help when it comes to the defense at shortstop. The infield defense, I believe, was 29th overall in outs above average last year as a whole. So those are the three things that I think they're looking at right now. You need balance in the lineup. You need better defense in the infield. And you could possibly improve at catcher because they're 29th with projections, right? Sure, they brought in Nevias, Sebi Zavala, but that's all depth at the end of the day. And then you also look at the catching position from a future point of view. There's not a lot of upside right now, at least close to major league ready. You look at someone like Johanfran Garcia. He's pretty far away, though. He had some injuries this past year. Who knows? Maybe he could be an option down the road. But close to major league level, like ready, they don't have a lot right now. So that's where I'm looking at this. Getting back to Casas, I don't think they are looking to trade him because they don't like the guy or anything. I think that's where people are sort of getting at. I don't think that's it at all. I think it's just they look at him. He's young. He has upside. He's cheap. That means he has value. And if you're trying to, shore up the team like Craig Breslow keeps bringing up, someone like him, and if you're looking to balance out the lineup, yeah, you're trying to get a little bit more right-handed in the lineup. Tristan Casas checks off all the boxes when it comes to value, and he's a left-handed bat. And then you also look at the idea, I've mentioned this before. I think Rafael Devers, would be okay at first base, whether or not you want to agree with it. But I think they also think he would be fine at first base. Because they have to improve at third base. Do you want to DH him? Well, you can't because Yoshida's not getting moved. And then first base, if you move Casas, would be open. So I think there's just a lot of boxes being checked off. Again, I don't think it's like a personal attack on Casas. I think if anything, it's a compliment. And he actually mentioned that as well, saying that other teams see value in him. I think there's just a lot of boxes to check off. Again, yeah, would you like 30 to 40 home runs in your lineup? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, front offices don't think like that. They think about wins. They don't think about home runs. Why do you think Anthony Santander isn't signed yet? Why do you think he's open to a short-term deal? The guy hit 44 home runs this past year. Why isn't he on a team? It doesn't matter about the home runs. Yes, that helps, but you want how many wins the player is going to give you. What is he going to give you at the plate? Also, what is he going to give you in the field? What is everyone going to give you on the field? What are they going to give you on the base paths? Do we pay attention how important base running is? Base running is very important. It's huge. We don't think about that, right? not just stealing bases, but are you able to maybe take an extra bag here and there? Maybe you could, can you be a guy that can get from first to home possibly on a triple? That stuff matters, right? Now, not taking anything away from Casas, but I think they're just looking at the weaknesses on their team. How could they shore up every possible spot? And that's why you look at a guy like Arenado, and again, it's the same old thing. Arenado, I know. Aging player, even though he's 34 years old. People act like he's 50. The guy had a 3.1 F4 this past year. I mean, if you're looking at it, if you're looking at rankings here, Arenado, when it came to F4, you had 129 qualified players this year. Arenado was right there in the middle, 58. Yeah, the bat regressed, but the defense was great because defense gives you wins. His defense is so good that he's still a very valuable player because run prevention's a thing, right? Again, it's not about just how many home runs you hit. It's about, that helps, but it's about the whole team, all right? How's your defense? How's your base running? All right. Home runs are important, but I personally think that they're looking at guys. If they did bring in Arenado, for example, I think they see a guy that could hit 25 plus home runs with half a season at Fenway Park. I think they believe in Trevor Story to get back to what he can do when he was healthy. That's a guy, if he's healthy, that's a guy that could hit 20, 25 home runs. They look at Bregman. That's a guy that could thrive at Fenway Park. I think they just look at that. I think they're willing, in my opinion, to sacrifice the power upside of Casas to build a better team. That's just the way I look at it, right? I like Casas a lot. I would love for this guy to be in the lineup. But at the end of the day, I want the best possible team. And if it means that you got to use him to improve the other parts, it would suck. But that's just my thinking. And again, maybe that's just my own thing because I've been a fan now for a long time. I look at the teams, right? Yes, I love looking back on, certain players and their seasons and, what they brought, to the city and everything. I don't look too much at the emotional attachment. I don't really have that as much anymore than I used to. I just look at the whole team, right? I'd love to find out. And again, if that team has Casas in it, I'm all for it. I'm great with that. I would love to keep this guy around. But if he ends up having to be used, if you end up getting a great catcher, possibly a better third baseman defensively, or you add Alex Bregman to the infield at second base and you put that bat at Fenway Park, I'm cool with that too. And again, circling back, what Craig Breslow said in the beginning, it's potentially foolish to just have one path. You need to be open to multiple pathways. I think there's everything and anything on the table at this point. That's what I took away from Fenway Fest this past weekend. Those are my thoughts. I know everyone's not going to agree. I could sit here and keep talking about it, but it is what it is. That's the way I think. I know everyone's going to think, differently as well. But that's just the way I think. All right. Now, moving on. Garrett Crochet. He talked about an extension. And listen, everyone, I think this is going to happen eventually. I do think an extension is going to get done. Every time you see good words, like more positive words like this when it comes to extensions, I think more often than not, they get done. And it just makes sense to extend someone like Crochet. He says here, there have been conversations with my agent and the front office, just kind of getting a feel for one another. Staying in Boston long-term is something that has a lot of merit in my mind and something I think would be awesome. In the meantime, I'm just focusing on spring and getting ready for the upcoming season, trying to stay focused one day at a time. When something's presented, then we'll attack it. Listen, it makes a lot of sense. He's going to be coming up on free agency here in the next couple of years. I say get this hammered out now. Buy out a couple of those free agent years. He's going to be turning 26 this season. Buy out, a couple of years there, and he can go out into free agency, when he's 30. Guys are going out into free agency. Look at Corbin Burns, right? How old is Corbin Burns? Let me get there. What was he, 31? Sorry, 30. He just got a massive deal, So Garrett Crochet, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Get him a 5-year deal. I think that makes sense. That way he gets paid nicely over the next 5 years, and then he still goes into free agency, and he can go get himself a great deal then. All right. I think that just makes a lot of sense. Now, if you are looking at a potential contract, on baseball trade values right now, a 5-year deal, you're looking at around 150, 155 million. I think that makes sense. I could see maybe even that getting potentially to 160. If you're looking at it from a wins above replacement point of view, each win is, let's just say, right around $8 million. If he's a 4 wins above replacement on average over those 5 years, that's 20 wins total. 20 times 8, that's 160. So I could see something 5 years, 150 to 160. I think you could see something in that range. I do think something gets done. It makes a lot of sense. These are the kind of extensions the Red Sox want to do. That they don't like. They're hesitant on giving deals out for guys over 30 years old because these are the years that you want to pay for. The Red Sox know this, right? Historically, these are the guys that you want to pay. That's why I think Vlad Jr. could be a real possibility. Again, we'll see what ends up happening with that. If he even gets to, let's see. I don't know if the Blue Jays are going to get something done there, but Vlad, he's going to be 27 when he goes into free agency. I could see the Red Sox being like, all right, yeah, 27. Yeah, we can get 4 or 5 good years out of that. And then we'll have to figure out the back half of the deal. Anyway, but for Crochet, this makes a lot of sense. It's right in the Red Sox ballpark. Crochet, who's had some arm issues, right? Had Tommy John. This is the deal that you want to do for the Red Sox, for Crochet. It makes sense on both sides. I think they will come together at some point. We also have some news on the Big Three. And when I say Big Three, it's weird saying the Big Three because now I'm thinking of the Boston Celtics because before we were saying the Big Four because Kyle Teal was there. Well, now we got to think of it as the Big Three, right? Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer. Now, when it comes to Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, they are very much open to long-term deals, similar to Corbin Carroll and Jackson Chourio. So taking a look here, and also Sam Kennedy said this, we're set now with the group for the foreseeable future. That was the goal to get us into this position. There's a plan for a lot of our guys internally to try and extend. That's something that's really important for great organizations. And I think right now, the fact that Roman Anthony is the number 1 prospect in Major League Baseball, he, in my conversations with Mikey Romero, number 12 prospect in the Red Sox organization, Alex Cora as well, Roman Anthony seems like a guy, even when you just see him, speaking with people, he was there at Fenway Fest, even when you just see the way he carries himself, a guy that's mature, a guy that just is wise for his age. That's the kind of guy you want to extend, right? That's definitely a guy you would like to have that conversation with. He's a metrics darling. He checks off so many boxes. Like he's just a guy that plays hard out there, carries himself well, and he has the analytics on his side. That's the kind of guy I think you should be throwing like an 8-year, 9-year deal at. Now, taking a look at some of the comments here. I believe with Roman Anthony, I think he said that he would just be I don't know. I don't think it's in this article, but I think he said like he's basically open to it, right? So, but with Christian Campbell, he actually went a little further. Campbell says here, when asked about a long-term deal, he said 100%. This is definitely an organization I would love to be with for a long period of time. It's a conversation definitely to have, and I would definitely be open to that. I think personally, Christian Campbell, he reminds me a lot of, and again, I don't know if this is fair or not, so I apologize if this is not fair. He reminds me a lot of Mookie Betts. I think he really comes off as like a bigger Mookie Betts to me. A guy that is just taller, is a bigger frame, but he almost has like a swing like Mookie. He's got those quick hands. He moves around in the infield and the outfield. It reminds me a lot of him. I say don't make the same mistake that you made with Mookie Betts. Get a deal done with someone like Christian Campbell. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, when it came to Jackson Chourio, they got him signed up to like an 8-year, I believe it was like $88 million. It was in the 80s, but they got that deal done with him. For Corbin Carroll, I believe that was an 8-year, right around $115 million. I think Roman Anthony, you could see the Corbin Carroll kind of a deal. I could see with Christian Campbell, who really only just kind of came up really through the ranks this past year. I'm sure a lot of scouts and people in development had their eyes on him ever since they got maybe even going back to college. They probably saw a lot of good things with him. I'm sure there's been a lot of people in the organization that have been high on Christian Campbell, but he just emerged this past year. So I wonder if you're looking at that, maybe you could look at a deal like the Chourio kind of a deal, a bit less. Corbin Carroll was a bit more established. He did have a bit of major league playing time before they gave him the contract. Roman Anthony is yet to do that. So maybe if Anthony, I could maybe see a situation where maybe they could look to get it and maybe open up those conversations at some point during the season or maybe next off season. I say get the guy, some playing time a little bit. Kind of do the Corbin Carroll approach. I could see with Roman Anthony something in the 8-year, like $120 million range. And Christian Campbell, I think kind of, again, like a Jackson Chourio kind of a thing. If I were to go one way or the other, I feel like Roman Anthony right now would be the guy. Not just because he's the number one prospect, but he's kind of just proven himself a bit more. I'm not saying not taking anything away from Christian Campbell. I think the guy's could be a stud. But I think, again, just kind of showing the consistency, right? Making those adjustments. Roman Anthony has been making those adjustments. I think just Campbell needs a bit more time, and I think he will get there. But Anthony, I feel like right now is probably the guy you look at to extend, maybe not this offseason, maybe next offseason, or even some point during the season, possibly. We'll see, But I would say by next offseason, we could eventually see a Roman Anthony extension, maybe Christian Campbell. Now, with Marcelo Meyer, also came out this past weekend. He's going to be getting a lot more time at second base and third base, which makes a lot of sense, right? But, again, this is why you draft shortstops. Because they're guys that can move around very easily. You could even see shortstops move out to the outfield because they're so athletic. All right, but Meyer, it makes a lot of sense, especially with second base being a huge question mark at this point. A lot of people think Christian Campbell could be the guy, but again, you never know what can end up happening. Maybe Campbell has to go through some adjustments this year. Maybe Meyer takes a big step forward this year, and who knows? Maybe we end up seeing him at some point. Or third base. We're talking about Raffy. Maybe who knows what ends up happening there? What if they end up signing Bregman? You keep Raffy at third or whatever, and then who knows? Someone goes down, let's say they end up keeping Casas, but something comes up with him again, possibly. I don't know. Maybe Raffy could be a guy you move over there, and then if Meyer's just killing it down in the minor leagues, you can bring him up, and who knows? Maybe he could be kind of like what Bogarts did years back, right? Moved right into third base to start off his career. So we'll see, But Meyer, I think it's a good thing. This is what the Red Sox like to do. They want guys to, this is what the major leagues in general are doing. They're opening up that versatility. So, but everyone, that's where I'm going to wrap things up here for tonight. Again, if you went to Fenway Fest this past weekend, I hope you had a great time. If you didn't, hope you had a great weekend. It was a good weekend for Patriots fans as well. I'm pretty sure we're all Patriots fans here. Mike Vrabel brought into the mix. I was talking about this on the last show. Vrabel, always a fan of him. Kind of, just to me, was like such a Patriot back in the day, man. Just a hard-nosed player, gritty player. Always liked Vrabel. I like what he does with seeing video clips when he was with the Titans out there. He's got the pads on or whatever. He's doing drills with these linemen and whatnot. I love stuff like that. I love when the coaches are getting their hands dirty. I like Vrabel, man. I think he's going to be a good get. I think he's going to be good for the culture. I felt like the culture has just been way off the last couple of years. We'll see. But either way, it's a good day for Patriots fans. I don't even know what's going on in football right now. I don't even know who won. Packers, Eagles, I think they were playing. I don't even know what the other games are. I'm not good with the footballs, ladies and gentlemen. Since Brady left, I kind of was just checked out a little bit, But everyone, I'm out of here. I'm going to wrap things up. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. The goal for tonight was 100 likes. We're only at 60. I know 40 of you can hit that like button for me. But everyone, go have yourself a good rest of your night. If there is anything to talk about tomorrow night, I will be here. Go check out the last video that I posted as well. But everyone, go enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good week coming up, and I'll talk to you next time.